Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, since it's online and we don't know from where everybody is joining. Very happy to be with all of you today. I speak from Aria University. Aria University is an online university in California, based out of California, but we are here for all of you, reaching out to all of you. What makes the university distinct and special is that the courses we offer are in Kuchipudi dance. The programs that we offer are in Kuchipudi dance, Bharatanatyam, Carnatic music, Hindustani music, Telugu, and Sanskrit, but from America and as an online program. So we have the certificate program, the diploma program, and the master's program. So we have something for everybody. We have the certificate for those certificate and diploma programs for those in the high school and above, anybody, in case you are one of those who has learned dance at one time and is unable to learn now, and you want to get back to it, this is the perfect place for you. And we have masters for those who really want to delve into it and find out more about the dance itself beyond what is given to you on regular platforms. Here we are to lead you through the politics of the dance form itself. So, Aria University, technical details for you. I'm not very good at this, but I'll do it for you from the paper. Aria University is a WASC accredited university offering programs in fine arts and language. I have told you all this. This is in more formal language here. And if you have questions, I will post the link in the chat for you. Today we have with us, this is the exciting part, we have Dr. Sindhuja Suryadevara and Dr. Devi Girish with us. A little bit about them. They gave me a very formal resume to read from. I'm not going to read it like that. Sindhuja is committed, passionate dancer and researcher. She has completed her master's and her doctorate from the University of Hyderabad, Central University of Hyderabad. She is a master's in Kuchipudi and Carnatic music. She's in fact, both of them, they keep writing and publishing articles and presenting papers and performing. What makes our faculty and our students special is that their foray into academia doesn't stop them from dancing. So we have this balance of practice and theory. We treat it as sacrosanct, that both go together. Sindhuja is a graded artist in Doordarshan for Kuchipudi, and she, of course, has performed to acclaim across the country. She has also learned Bharatanatyam and is now learning Odissi. I don't know why. She has founded the Sinjini School of Arts, and she imparts training in Kuchipudi and Carnatic vocal also. She is presently the Associate Professor at the Department of Dance, Aria University. Devi. Devi is all very systematic and academic, so I'm not going to talk like this about you, Devi. She's quite a distinguished academician and a performing artist. Yeah, and she's very much into research and methodology and, bringing in all the science of education into dance, which I find, I almost envy her that she is able to do it. So with over 18 years of diverse professional experience, she has played a pivotal role in designing innovative curricula and enriching student experiences through arts and activity leadership. So every time we have something very difficult to do with paperwork at the university, we give it to Devi and tell her, do this for us, Devi. She has blended traditional arts with modern educational paradigms, and this angle will be seen today in her talk, where she talks about how Kuchipudi has gone international in a way that most of us don't even address, or we don't even think we should be finding out about. She holds a doctoral degree again. Devi, as me and Sindhuja we have all done a master's and a PhD from the University of Hyderabad. And she's right now with an assistant professor at the Department of Kuchipudi, Aria University. Devi, I'll stop at this. Otherwise, we won't have enough time for your talk. We'll start with the talk. Sindhu will start the talk for you. The talk itself is called The Cultural Journey of Kuchipudi Dance. They are dividing the 1 hour between themselves. We'll have a 1 hour talk and we'll have half an hour of question answers. Feel free to shoot them. You corner them with questions that they cannot answer, all of you. And I just want to say that when we say cultural journey of Kuchipudi dance, they have chosen not to delve too much into the understood and known history of Kuchipudi, that history that you will get on the tourism website. We are not getting into that, but they will talk about the more nuanced and the less spoken about history of Kuchipudi. I'm sure they won't have time to delve into it completely, but they will, tweak your curiosity. While they're doing this, I'll cheat a little bit and give you a few links where you can please put in your details so that we have the details with us. And do register for the next webinars also that we have on those links. I'm not great at this, but I'll try my best. Over to Sindhu.
Namaste everyone. Thank you, Akka, for that sweet introduction and telling them to corner us with questions. So, okay, I'll start my presentation. Kirdadottodim dam, dottodim dam, tadikutakatahata kidatakatakatikutakatakatikutakatikitam, dittakutam, dintakitataha kidatakadittalangu talangutum, tadimikitadittimikitatakadittalangu talangutum, tahata kidatacham tatatakitadittalangu talangutum, kirdadottodim dam, dottodim dam, tadikutakatahata kidatakatadittakadim, tadittakadim, amba paraku, devi paraku. మమ్మేలుమా సరదాంబా పరాకు వాణి పరాకు గిర్వాణి పరాకు వాణి చకని నీలవేణి. That is how we begin our Kuchipudi performances, as you all know that. So any dance form, be it Kuchipudi, Bharatanatyam, contemporary, Kathak, whatever it is, each of these dance forms has a distinct sound, tone and a texture to it, which you can call it maybe like a musical fingerprint. So today we'll see how shifting historical narratives and cultural transitions shape this music that defines our Kuchipudi. So let's start with a brief introduction to Kuchipudi, which is a rich theatrical tradition which has evolved from its indigenous roots in Veedi Natakams, Pagataveshams, and also female dancing traditions from the Andhra region. So originally Kuchipudi's performance repertoire centered around Yakshagana and Kalapam, which are narrative-driven forms, drama, theatrical genres. So Yakshaganam presented an entire story through multiple characters, whereas Kalapam focused on one episode from a larger narrative, typically with 2 or 3 characters in Kalapam. So some of the prominent Yakshagana compositions were Prahlada Charitam, Usha Parinayam, Ramanatakam, Mohini Rukmangada, and so on. Well, we all know that Bhama Kalapam and Golla Kalapam stand out as a significant Kalapams. So over time, Kuchipudi expanded to include solo performances and also Nritya Natikas, which are the dance dramas. First, we'll begin by exploring Yakshaganam and Kalapam from a musical perspective. So when we say or we think of Yakshaganam today, it is important to recognize that the current form that we know was shaped in the late 19th century. And the credit is mostly due to Hari Madhavaya. So coming from a Kuchipudi village from the hereditary families, he traveled to Melatur, where in the Tanjavur Nayaka court, there was another hereditary family member who was serving in the court. So Harimadvaya got acquainted and involved himself with the Bhagavata Mela Natakam, a dramatic tradition from Tanjavur, and he got in some elements from that, which he used it in the Kuchipudi Yakshagana. So here we make an interesting connection where Kuchipudi Yakshagana and its music carries influences from the Tanjavur Nayaka courts. So Madhvaya passed down this knowledge to Chinta Venkatramaya, who is known as the Yakshagana Pitamaha. Chinta Venkatramaya has placed greater emphasis on the Nritta part, and his works became immensely popular. So it is through this link that we still have that is a known history of what we know of Yakshaganans. So after Chinta Venkatramaya, we have Bokka Kumaraswamy, who was a violinist and also a musician, who refined this Yakshagana music, and also he developed the Bhama Kalapam Jatis. Then we come to the later half of the 20th century, where we see another transformation, where Vedantam Satyanarayana, who is extremely popular and globally recognized for his Bhama performances. So to make the form more appealing to wider audiences, because the dance was spreading by that time, he adjusted some elements, like he modified few ragas, he tweaked the footwork, added some elements of his own because he is very good with Abhinaya, thus refining the presentation. Then came Vempati Chinnasatyam, of course, who reshaped Bhama Kalapam with a stronger emphasis on Nritta and eliminated the Vachika completely by the performers. So let's shift the focus to the actual musical elements of Kuchipudi Yakshaganam and the Kalapam. These forms are layered with Padyalu, Telugu Padyalu, the verses, then variations in those. Different meters. Then there is Sandhivachanam, Ardha Chandrika, Churnika. Each of these components that play a crucial role in structuring the narrative as well as the musicality. Each has its different rules. But one of the most striking elements in Kuchipudi is the Daru, the Pravesh Daru, which is particularly for the lead characters. Whether it's Bhama's dramatic presence or the majestic entry of Hiranyakasipu, Darus serve as musical statements that also define the character's essence. So that is the Patra Pravesa Daru, the entry composition. So this is where the character's attributes and the defining traits of that characters are musically also introduced to the audience. It's like a theatrical presentation of the song, where there is movement, music, and the character. Let's watch a small bit of a video of Hiranyakasipu Pravesadaru from the Prahlada Yakshagana. I hope that was audible mostly and also visible. So that was Hiranyakashipu Pravesadaru from the Prahlada Yakshaganam, which is in Saveri Raga, and it embodies the grandeur and authority of the character. So the musical elements, it was also sometimes punctuated with this video is a condensed version, but when you look at the normal or expanded version, you'll see that the characters or the singer, they produce sounds like "ay," "oi," which are deliberate stylistic choices that add to his commanding presence. In contrast, if you look at Bhama Kalapam, the Bhama Pravesaravu, Bhamane Satya Bhamane, which most of us know, and is almost synonymous with Kuchipudi itself. So that sort of encapsulates Satyabhama's personality, which is spirited, and it's an iconic piece which resonates with the audiences. So here I would like to add that the truly fascinating element is that the Yakshaganas and Kalapams were transmitted orally through the oral tradition. So the artists had to memorize the script and the songs, and they also used a lot of manodharmam, where they they tweaked certain things impromptu, where the basic narrative is there, but they had the freedom in terms of music and movement to improvise on stage because they had the privilege of live orchestra all the time. So one instance that changed this and also sort of revolutionized the scenario by making all these compositions available to the future generations is the documentation of these Yakshaganam and Kalapam full-length presentations by Chinta Krishnamurti. So in the 1950s, Chinta Krishnamurti has, along with renowned Carnatic musician Volet Venkateshwarlu, documented Kuchipudi's repertoire. So this is the first attempt at streamlining the script and also music. So these notations provided structure and set the foundation, which was later reinterpreted by many artists. So Kuchipudi music, while it is rooted in the Carnatic tradition, it carries a very unique and unmistakable flavor of its own. So they are not trying to abide by the purely classical rules, but the emphasis is on storytelling. So which makes it more emotionally resonant. Like if the character demands, they don't mind tweaking the song a little, or the raga, in fact. So this adaptation has sparked certain debates. So some critics argue that leaning to a narrative-driven style may dilute the technical purity of Carnatic music, which itself kept changing the rules of the Carnatic music, so to say. But from a practitioner's point of view, it is essential for a performance where the communication of bhava, the emotion, takes precedence over technical rules. So there is one other term here which keeps coming up often, that is Parsi Mettu, which is used in Kuchipudi music. And this refers to the influences of the drawn from the Parsi theatre, which was extremely popular at that time. So basically anything that was not in their frame of music was called as Parsi Mettu for a considerable amount of time. So through this presentation, we will explore the key examples that show this unique musical identity that is of Kuchipudi, how it strikes a balance between classical structure and also its inherent theatrical expression. So the first marker for any music is the ragas in the Indian system. So there were about 15 ragas that were used for the entire repertoire. There were certain exceptions where rare ragas were used, but these were mostly used ragas like Ananda Bhairavi, Mohana, which was known as Revagupti, Nata, Surati, Mukhari, Kamboji, Saveri, that we saw, Bhairavi, which we know from the Bhama Kalapam, Pravesadarvu, Purvi Kalyani, Atthana, and such talas, which were used mostly in the Kuchipudi repertoire. So the talas that were used were Atta, Adi, Triputa, Jampe, and Rupaka, which pretty much follows the same even now. So in this regard, another standout feature is the intricate rhythmic patterns that were used, the various gatis and how they were used in the presentation, which kind of shaped the energy of the performance. But if we were to pinpoint at one marker, one identity marker in terms of the rhythmic pattern, it would be Usi or Edru for Kuchipudi. So, teg, 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 teg. When you go against the original beat, that is called Usi or Edru, it sort of gives that punch, peppiness to both the dancer and also to the viewer. And the beauty is here, if in a given phrase, you can You can actually place the stress at different parts to emphasize um, whether it's in the movement or in the action they are doing. For example, let's take very simple phrase taita kitataka. So taita kitataka. If that is a normal way to say it, you can say it as taita kitataka, taita kitataka. So you're stressing on taka. Or you can also do taita kitataka, taita kitataka. Or taita kitataka, taita kitataka. So when you are giving the emphasis, that punch at different places, the movement can also change accordingly, or vice versa. Based on the movement, you can change the way you sing. Right? It sort of, it's a musical punctuation that creates interest and also engagement. The movement might turn into sharp, fluid, or there could be a jump at that exact place. So this sort of interaction between music and movement is one of the defining features of Kuchipudi, where rhythm is not just an accompaniment which goes with the dancer, but it drives the expressiveness in the form. So the next thing I would like to talk about is the change in rhythmic patterns, which is again a beautiful feature in Kuchipudi music. Let's take an example from Bhama Kalapam. There is Daravu called Endubotivi. So I'll first sing a one-liner and then tell how the pattern shifts in that. ಎಂದು ಬೋತಿವಿ ಎಂದು ಬೋತಿವಿ ಎಂದು ಬೋತಿವಿ ರಾರ ನಂದನಂದನ. So this is going in one pace in Chaturasram. So next thing which happens is ಎಂದು ಬೋತಿವಿ ಎಂದು ಬೋತಿವಿ ಎಂದು ಬೋತಿವಿ ರಾರ ಸಾವೆಂದು ಬೋತಿವಿ ಎಂದು ಬೋತಿವಿ ಎಂದು ಬೋತಿವಿ ರಾರ. That was in Tisram. The next line was రాధికాలోలుక ఏమి రావయ్య ఈ వేళను మాధవాని మీద నాకు మక్కువ విడదాలను శ్రీధరేశ నా మనోహర చేరరాయి వేళను. So it went to Mishram and then circled back to Chaturasram. So this is a carefully or cleverly crafted variation, which is as much as a musical complexity, but also it's a deliberate attempt to heighten the emotional impact or the bhava of the song or the character that it is going through. So this interplay of rhythm and movement keeps the performance immersive with its depth and also variation. So that brings in a lot of variety and interest. Then if we look at some of the distinctive literary structures that are found in both Yakshaganam and Kalapam, there are Sisa Padyams, Ataveladi Padyams, Teta Giti, Kandardam, Churnika, each playing a specific role in shaping the narrative texture. So there is a purpose. Instead of going with all songs, which are the rules basically, you punctuate them with all these different kinds of meters that are found in Telugu as well as Sanskrit literature. So out of these, the Kandardam is again interesting, which starts as a verse, but it goes into a rhythmic movement. So it's sort of a interplay between poetry and dance. A popular example is from Bhama Kalapam again, where we see this shift unfold. ఎరుపగుయున్నే దుస్తులు రారమ్మని పిలువ పద్మరాగ పునగలున్ కోరినవన్నీయునిచ్చెదా కోరినవన్నీయునిచ్చెదా మారాములు సేయకిప్పుడు మాధవు తెమ్మ మర్యాద కాదని మాధవి అనుమా. So it started as a verse without any, it's a padyam, kanda padyam basically, where there is no rhythm to it. Rhythm as in talam to it, there is rhythm, sorry. There is no talam to it. But then it goes into a talam, a rhythmic piece. So that was Kandartam. And then there is this popular thing which all of you know, which is the Churnika. It's a prosodic competition, a composition with intrinsic rhythmic structure due to again how it's placed, how the meters are placed. So the well-known Churnika is Lekha from Bhamakalapam, which perfectly showcases the blend of literary and musical elements. Srimad Ratnakara Putrika, that is the Lekha. Then this brings me to another unique or special feature of the dramatic genre of Kuchipudi, which are the dialogues. The distinct Vachika Abhinaya, spoken expressions, which brings to life the characters, allowing performers to convey the emotions and their personality through their own voices. So again, as I told before, the fascinating element here is the impromptu dialogues, a true mark of proficiency by skilled artists, hereditary artists who used to change the dialogues or add or edit elements based on how the audience's reception was. All these things were done without breaking the flow of the performance and also maintaining the original narrative. So for this, I would like to show a small bit from the Golla Kalapam, which is done by, performed here by another faculty from our university, Ramadevi Garu.
మంచిది గొల్లభామ
హాయాలా మా అత్త చెప్పని
ఏమని చెప్పింది మీ అత్త
సిక్కోడలా ఏ ఇదికైనా ఎల్లు గాని గల్ల గా పాపనూరిదికి ఎల్లబోకే అంది.
దాని పొందేమని లేదు. బాపనాడు ఇంటికి వస్తే నీకేమైంది? పాలుకు పాలు, పెరుకు పెరుకు, వెన్నకి వెన్న అన్ని చక్కగా ముక్కుంటున్నావు కదా. బాపనాడు ఇంటికి వస్తే నీకేమైంది?
అట్లా కాదు స్వామి. ఇంకా బాపనారు ఇదిలో కొత్తిమీర కట్టలాంటి పిలక జుట్టేసుకొని ఈ బుదిరేకలు నెత్తిరెట్టుకొని
That was a conversation between Gollabama and the Brahmin. And it was always, there was also always a tinge of satire and fun included in it. Again, based on the who was performing, there were certain changes. Okay? I think here I will pause and let's shift to what Devi has to say about Kuchipudi's history.
Thank you, Sindhu. My section, I'll be looking at the theoretical journey of Kuchipudi and how the art form has evolved. So in this section, we will look into the linguistic bifurcation of the state that made it necessary for Andhra Pradesh to have a cultural pointer for pan-India, the oriental perspective of Kuchipudi and how Kuchipudi has attained classical status, leading it to a solo performing tradition as a separate format. So begin with the story. India's cultural and performing landscape was complex in its structure and form. The Indian society's cultural milieu is always portrayed to be in a highly confused state during the late 19th and early 20th century. So the beginning of the 1920s actually witnessed a series of incidents that changed the socio-political and cultural scenario drastically. Alongside, this phase saw the urge to establish linguistically separate provinces. And we all know that a name is not just a noun. Therefore, it could be stated that there is a political tint involved in naming as well as choosing the name from the various options. So to understand the voyage of Kuchipudi attaining a classical status, it is important to analyze the language, culture, and socio-political status of the land, place called Kuchipudi. Also, when we are looking into all these things, we need to enhance our deeper understanding of how the art form Kuchipudi has evolved into its present form while interconnecting these aspects. So, the major development that needs to be analyzed in this is the politics of changing an ethnic group name to a land name and the land name to a language name, and to explain or probe further the evolution and power politics involved in converging an ethnic group named Andhra to the name of a state where the subjects largely relied upon the language Telugu. So, especially considering that the early references suggest that Telugu country was the name given to the land, where Andhra was the name of an ethnic group that existed. For the evolution and formation of a state, the name holds an important place. And a series of events might have occurred that led to the selection of name as such. So the name Andhra has also undergone such semantic changes to form today's Andhra Pradesh. So there is a deeper understanding and study that needs to be involved to map those influences and journey of the word Andhra that made it politically correct to be a state name. So the modern revival of the word Andhra could be considered as the aftermath of the rediscovery of ancient history by the educated inhabitants. So there are many literary narratives that actually suggest this. So you can find it in the vernacular literature as well as in English also, that there are many articles that suggest how this whole process has been evolved and how the history and the evolution of the word Andhra, the semantic progression as we see it very grammatically, the semantic progression of the word Andhra, how this has been evolved to what we see as the name of a state today. So the articles that actually suggest talk about the Telugu speaking community as not as mere Telugu speakers, but the descendants of an ethnic group that was named as Andhra. And according to the status and survey from the literary resources, the Telugus were ranked third after Hindi and Bengali speakers and were considered larger than Marathi or Tamil speakers. So this was a fact that was not revealed or known to the public until the beginning of the 20th century. So we know that it was all Madras, it was called as Madras, the whole south states were called as Madras Presidency, and the people residing or were part of the Madras Presidency were not aware of their own language or the cultural influences of their language or the richness of their language as such. So for the Telugu speaking community, being ranked as third among the linguistic population was a milestone. And that was a time when the whole Telugu speaking community was under a very humiliating and distressing phase, because they were considered as minority in the Madras presidency, and there was a lot of other political issues that involved at that particular point of time. And there was a deep sense of insecurity and lacuna among the Telugu speaking community that was triggered. And all this thing has triggered to get into a deeper understanding of their own past, their own language, their own literature. So the narratives of these Telugu intellectuals brought awareness of their glorious past, and they were made cognizant of the unfair treatment meted out to them in the name of language by the ruling government of the Madras Presidency. And they realized that the colonial rule had strategically transformed the historiography of Telugus to suit their agenda. And this point is very crucial for the history of Kuchipudi as well, because when we see that this was the whole scenario which actually shifted to have a cultural pointer for Andhra Pradesh. When we see how Andhra Pradesh has been evolved as a separate state, which was a part of a linguistic bifurcation that happened at that particular point of time. For the colonial rule, the revenue units were focused as the boundaries, and the boundaries were based on the date of annexation. And the Madras Presidency did not bifurcate the state on geographical grounds. And it can be sustained that the bifurcation was mapped according to the Samindari classification of the places. As explained, the colonialist invasion was never interested in a linguistic bifurcation. And from the end of the 19th century, the division within the geographic terrain of South and North India was based on the socio-economic grounds. the significance of having a common language as an identity to form an ethnic group or nation was well defined and continuously under critical observation in India at that particular point of time. And this aided and added regional flavor of identifying oneself with the language spoken and unification into one nation or group while opposing discrimination. So the formulation of Andhra Mahajan Sabha propelled the efforts towards the goal to achieve a separate province for the Telugu speaking community. And almost all political parties supported the cause, and it also extended to support the economic backwardness that was affected in some of the Telugu speaking districts. So when we look at the history, it was never an easy process to have a separate state of its own according to the linguistic boundaries, and it was never considered a geographical boundary. Also, it was not separated as such. So in 1935, what we actually see is for Telugu speaking community, a proposal was passed to have a separate state. So there was no immediate action that was taken after passing this kind of a proposal. And this urge to have a separate state intensified. And this time, the agitation witnessed the participation of a larger mass of Telugu speaking people in the Madras state. And this was marked as a mass expression of regional patriotism of all Telugus. So, however, this could not convince the central ministry, and there was a lot of negligence that happened at that particular point of time. And it was never taken seriously by the Congress ministry also. And it took a violent turn when Putti Sriramulu passed away on 15th December 1952. So then the government realized and gave consent for a separate state for the Telugu speaking community and was sanctioned and announced in the same year. And thus Andhra Pradesh was formed in the year 1956. In India, the nationalist movement against the British rule from the mid-19th century to the early 20th century witnessed a tremendous urge of reassertion of traditional value. So as soon as the state was formed, then it was an urge to have a cultural pointer of its own and to identify or get an identity of its own in a pan-Indian scenario. So there was complete awareness and awakening among the Indians of their rich cultural heritage and to understand how this could be taken forward. So this could involuntarily bring in a consciousness of identifying oneself with one's own cultural points. So dwindling sense of identity has been resurrected with the renewed focus on culture that was aided by the revival and reconstruction of several art forms. So these cultural reforms, along with the political and social reforms, have played a pivotal role in conceiving an imaginary India of cultural India as such. So the linguistic principle followed by the State Reorganization Act urged the Telugu-speaking community to have a cultural identity of their own, and the major agenda was the significance to have a common language, alongside the urge to build a cultural identity and socio-economic prosperity. So the cultural identity was essential as it could mark and validate the newly formed state on the map of India. And it was a continuous need to develop the performing art traditions of Telugu community for recognition. And the establishment and propagation of Kuchipudi by all means was very much the need of the day, what with the state being benefited by the same. To develop the said consciousness and to spread the trigger of recognition, many scholarly articles were published and the recognition of certain performing art traditions. And we can see that not just Kuchipudi, but then other art forms, we can see that there was a rescribing or reconstructing the histories of certain performing traditions were done. And all these things were done at that particular point of time just to uplift one's own cultural identity. If you look at the bifurcation of state and how the art forms has been developed over a period of time. So where we are also focusing, when we are focusing on Kuchipudi, what we actually need to focus is the development and transformation of a Kuchipudi being a group hereditary male performing art form to a non-hereditary female performing solo art form that we see today. So when we are looking at the semantics of Kuchipudi, what we identify is the name of a place and the name of an art form. So the word Kuchipudi did not undergo much transformation to get a new identification as a form. because Kuchipudi is a physical place and a village located in Krishna district along Krishna River. So moving back to the Orient perception of Kuchipudi, the literary narratives on the Orient and Occidental view of certain concepts of the Victorian era suggests that it was impossible for the Orient to accept certain practicing traditions of India. And they could never understand the ideology attached and associated with the Indian performing and practicing tradition. They weaned India of its rich culture and heritage and arts, and the colonial rule could not digest the practice of Devdasi system in India. And they denounced the system in 1911. So parallel to this, there was another form of dancing that sprouted, and that was Orient form of dancing. So when we say Orient form of dancing, this referred to the dance pieces and choreographies by the artists in the West, taking their inspiration from the East. So we can see in the various literary narratives, names like Ruts and Denise, Anna Pavlova, La Mary, Ragini Devi, all of them who have come to India, got inspired by the performing traditions of India, and then took pieces of whatever they have seen, and they went back, and then they've started performing it as saying that an inspiration from the Indian performing traditions. So the Orient form of dancing has become very popular in the West with the help of some of the Indian performers like Uday Shankar and Ram Gopal, and they teamed up to explore the rustic nature of India. In contrast to that, the Occident was preparing itself to bring back its lost glory with the revival and reconstruction of its own forms of dance. So there was a process involved in nationalism, state patronage, and sponsorship that was instigated with the appropriation of certain regional art forms as national, and therefore they fall under the category of classical. This is a much debated statement and a much debated issue that we can see in different literary articles. There are two phases, and then how different scholars have their own take of the same particular point. The paradox in the scenario was the one who appropriated Indian dance forms and celebrated as Indian culture there. So always there is a question that whether that has been the correct or appropriate way of putting an Indian performing tradition on an international platform. So when we are looking at Oriental performances in Kuchipudi, one name that actually always been part of the performances is Indrani Rahman. And she holds a special place for Kuchipudi, where she was initiated into the dance by her mother, Ragini Devi, and at the age of 9. And she accompanied her mother for performances. And there was a lot of mother-daughter duo performances that they have done in the beginning. And then she received her training in Kuchipudi from Shri Korada Narasimha Rao Garu. And then she has also partnered and performed in various international stages along with him. So Indrani's performances were, when we look at the performance pattern of Indrani, what we see actually is that the performance patterns were entitled as Indian classical dance, in which she would incorporate items from different performing art genres as such. And her presentation was an amalgamation of items from Bharatanatyam, Kuchipudi, Odissi, and Mohiniyattam. So, however, the reviews of these performances, when we actually look into it in a very critical way, what we actually see is there are many reviews that are for and against her performing pattern as such. Because there are many reviews that actually say that they couldn't see the correct bifurcation of each art form as such. There are many performances that reviews that actually say that she was able to bring in the nuances of Indian performing traditions on an international platform. So that's the art form. Through her performances, what has happened is that in a positive way, if we are looking at it, there are many stages where the art form has been recognized by the vitality, vigor, and vivaciousness of Kuchipudi. So there are many reviews that have actually spoken about the technique of Kuchipudi as such through her performances. So according to the literary narratives, the major part of this acceptance in the performance could be concluded as the contribution of Korada Narasimha Rao Garu. And she was, Indrani Rahman was more of a facilitator or kind of a person who have actually helped evolve Kuchipudi on an international platform. So after looking at the Oriental perspective of Kuchipudi as such, we are moving on to the very important phase of Kuchipudi, where Kuchipudi has attained classical status. So the process of change in traditional art forms could be considered as a part of the nationalist movement, and the literary narratives and the scholars define this as a product of the change in the socio-economic and political milieu. And this change could be described as an ongoing process on an even now we can say that this is an ongoing process. To understand Kuchipudi's journey and its accomplishment of being classical, it is also necessary to analyze and comprehend a series of incidents that actually led to this event. So when we see, we also look into the various contributors who have played an important role in attaining this kind of a status. And there is a series of incidents that has happened. And the concept of classical Kuchipudi was a thoughtful, serious, and a much awaited incident for the Telugu speaking community. Because as we explained, this was the only space where the Telugu speaking community felt that, their recognition and their identity could be raised to the pan-Indian image as such. So it was the only hope for the newly formed Andhra state as well as for the Telugu people to be part of the cultural map of India. The recognition of an art form from each state was considered the cultural identity of that particular state. And for Andhra Pradesh and Telugu speaking community, it was a chance to get recognized in the pan-Indian cultural scenario. However, there are incidents that followed regarding the classical status, but was not that much appealing for the art form Kuchipudi. And if we are looking at the prime incident, initially the art form was denied the status of having classical status. And prior to that, if we look at, there was Sangeet Natak Academy that was set up in the year 1952, which became functional in 1953. And this is a general body or cultural agency that was formed in order to oversee the activities, to recognize, to categorize, and to preserve different performing art traditions of each state. So said that the performing traditions, there are actually different opinions of the same. There are scholars who have debated on the same thing, that why is it necessary to have a cultural organization and why is it necessary to classify art forms as such. So the performing traditions and regional art forms were categorized as classical and form, and the art forms were bifurcated according to its correlation with the structure, format, development, and interspersed with treatises and text. So the public, this was an agenda to preserve a performing tradition of the country. But there are, as I've mentioned, there are many literary narratives that talk against of having such a body or an organization to bifurcate art forms as such. So as part of the efforts, there were put forth for the propagation and preservation of art forms. The Sangeet Natak Academy conducted a seminar, which is called an All India Dance Seminar. And then initially, Kuchipudi was denied classical status, and many literary narratives have mentioned that Kuchipudi was categorized as a non-classical art form during the seminar. However, there was uproar of not including the form into the classical category, and it has actually left Andhra Pradesh ignored. So being a newly formed state, the whole expectation was on the seminar, and as it was believed that this would pave the way for the state to achieve a new cultural identity. And subsequently, because of the uproar for the re-scrutiny, there was another seminar that conducted by the Andhra Pradesh Sangeet Natak Academy, which was a conscious effort taken by the state to claim place in the cultural map of India. And it was during that particular seminar that Kuchipudi has attained a classical status. And once it has attained classical status, there was this movement that was happening parallel, which was looking into having a separate solo performing tradition in Kuchipudi, solo as a separate format in Kuchipudi. Though we can see that in Kalapam or in Yakshagana, you can see the Patra Praveshadaru, which is performed as a solo. But solo being a separate format was a conscious effort by Vedana Lakshmana Shastriyaru. And we always see that it is an ever-changing process. And Lakshmana Shastriyaru had the opportunity to analyze different Mejuanis from the very beginning of his career. And since the performances held solo characteristics, the possibilities and ease of exhibiting a solo repertoire were obvious to adapt the inquisitive nature of Shastrigaru. So what we see in the during the first half of 20th centuries, because of the socio-economical and political conditions were demanding and a reclaiming of art, the stage was set for the or there was a need to have a performing tradition that is easy to take up with and move forward, rather than having a group performing tradition where you have a lot of artists going around and performing as such. So structuring of solo as a separate repertoire in Kuchipudi was a remarkable contribution by Vedana Lakshmanarayana Shastrigaru, and it was his quest for new horizons that developed into a new trajectory of separate solo format in Kuchipudi. So, when we are looking at solo as a different format, there is a lot of thought process that has gone. There is a lot of methodologies, pedagogies that has been involved in this, and it was with the ever changing kind of a process or ever changing kind of a attitude that it has been taken forward. And with this, the minute aspects of the transformation and the intrinsic attitude that we actually had in Kuchipudi as such has been developed by Lakshmanarayana Shastrigaru and his disciples together. Now let's see how the music of solo has been evolved over a period.
Thank you, Devi, for that interesting and much needed talk about the history.
Yeah. Sindhu, you think about 5 to 7 minutes would be good for you, Sindhu?
I'll finish it.
Yeah, because I do want to see you people bombarded.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so as we see in the evolution, we have solos now from the dramatic genre, but also we have dance dramas, which is Nritya Natikas. So with both of these have expanded the scope of Kuchipudi as such. The dialogues were removed, and then as a result, the music has gotten more importance. So Kuchipudi solos had a more kind of an open-ended framework, and they had variety of compositions in them. So while initially the compositions were crafted specifically for dance, aligning with the choreography, over time the repertoire expanded to embrace songs that were intended or originally created for singing or devotional singing also, like the bhajans. So it had its pros and cons. We have a wider repertoire now and much musical depth also. And we also have more lyrics now, more lyrical content than the limited repertoire. So first, we have Shabdams, which were drawn from Yakshaganas, like the Darus, as Devi said, were presented as solo pieces. Then we have Kirtanas, Kritis, Ashtapadis, Sarajati, Padam, Javali, Tarangam, Bhajan, Ashtakam, anything you name that is related to Carnatic or even Hindustani music. We have those pieces in the Kuchipudi solo repertoire. So we see a marked increase of the Carnatic stamp. Right? And taking from what Devi said, during the struggle for the classical identity, when the forms were realigning themselves or rebranding themselves, they had to establish with already legitimized forms. So for Kuchipudi, Carnatic music became such an anchor. So Kuchipudi has also strengthened by adapting more of Carnatic compositions. Here, it is very important that we see what happened with the dance dramas, though developed along the lines of the Yakshaganam by Venkatesha Satyam, who was created for creation of these dance dramas. So the musical storytelling was key here. This shift was strengthened by composers like Patrani Sangit Rao and Balantra Rajnikant Rao, who were associated with Telugu feature films and the Lalita Sangeetam. So their contributions introduced previously unused musical elements into Kuchipudi, enhancing its soundscape. So one major expansion in terms of ragas is the inclusion of Hindustani ragas like Ahiri, Saindavi, Madhuvanti, Pahadi, etc. And also Desi ragas into both dance drama and eventually into the solo repertoire also. one interesting thing here is, even though there is an influence of or influx of new and experimental ragas into the existing structure, the basic ragas like Mohana have retained their strong presence. Right? We still use them a lot across genres and across compositional types. Then there are ragamalikas, where there are a string of ragas in the same song. Like for example, in Brahmanjali, where the shlokas are set in multiple ragas. Angikam, which is in Hamsadvani, and then Guru Brahma is in Nata, then the next part is in Todi. So in one piece we have multiple ragas, which is a pattern followed in many of the solo compositions. But here nothing was arbitrary or random. It was a conscious choice. Okay. And talking about such experiments, if we look at Venkatachinna Satyam's Chandalika, it stands out for not only the theme itself, which is a social theme, but also incorporating folk tunes, which push the boundaries of Kuchipudi's music. Okay, so these transitions sort of demonstrate how Kuchipudi has stayed true to its roots, but also embraced the innovations or whatever it saw while in its progress. I have a video bit. Maybe if we'll have time, we'll watch it in the end. Another striking feature of these dance dramas, which was not much part of Yakshaganam and Kalapam, is the musical interludes or musical bits. Again, taking from the scoring from the feature films, there was instrumental interludes that heightened the storytelling without dialogues or lyrics. Right? It was purely instrumental accompaniment. So before these also, there were experimental pieces like Hunter dance or Shiva Parvati dance that relate solely on instrumental music. Before the solos were established, while they were in this experimental phase. So this time the significant influence was Uday Shankar, whose movement-driven storytelling inspired the Kuchipudi practitioners as well. But such things were concretized and became a fixture in Kuchipudi landscape only with the dance dramas. A bit about the instruments. While Yakshaganam had harmonium, violin, tabla, mridangam, by the time the dance dramas emerged, the orchestration has expanded significantly. We have our usual veena, violin, flute, along with percussion instruments like mridangam, tabla, and also there was kanjira. And also modern inclusions like keyboard for special effects became part of the orchestral arrangement. So this shift reflects how Kuchipudi has adapted to new performance demands. Moving from a dialogue-driven framework to a full-scale theatrical presentation where music was given much more variety and variation and importance also. So while there are some changes, there are some core elements that have been carried forward. Like we have seen Endubothivi from the Kalapam, where there is a shift in the gatis. A similar example can be found in solo system as well. Like for example, we have Sivashtakam, which is set in Khandachapo, but then towards the end, it becomes into an Aditalam, Chaturashram. Takundat takirtaktargirtakata. Takundat takirtaktargirtakatai. Takundat takirtaktargirtakadittadim tatakadittadim tatakadittadim tatakata. So these were seamlessly integrated in its choreography. Again, the concept of doubling, which is found in Carnatic music, where the rhythm is doubled from exactly double. That is not completely followed in the Kuchipudi parlance, and it is not an error, but it's an intentional stylistic choice. There are examples in regional forms as well for this sort of a structure, but it is intentional because the movements are designed for such music or such rhythmic patterns. So in the beginning, when I started, I did this. So this sort of staying the syllables in tune was called Ardidu. So This is again found in numerous compositions like Dashatara Shabdam, Ramayana Shabdam, where the syllables matched with what was happening in the story. Like if it's, for example, in Dashatara Shabdam, if it's Rama, then Jaga Jagana Kujagana Kurekina, matching the gentleness of his character. Whereas if it's Parashurama, who's fierce and like powerful, the rhythm intensifies where it is Tarita Tarita Drugurta Tatakita Tarita Tarita Drugurta Tatakita, where it's sharp, and that the temperament of the character is again seen in the syllables also, as well as the lyrics, of course, which happens to be what Kuchipudi is about, right? The movement, the music, and the character all are in one alignment. So one thing about the syllables here, these have also undergone significant changes during this becoming solos and dance dramas and all that, where we have some Kuchipudi specific syllables like Talangu, Drugurtom, Tangar Tangada. They have been sort of mixed with or sometimes replaced by Mridanga syllables. This shift reflects a transformation in the composition process itself, where it was Mridangas, not the hereditary practitioners or the Kuchipudi practitioners or teachers that have been shaping these rhythmic structures. So each of these elements that have shaped the storytelling or communication experience that what Kuchipudi is, it's very fascinating. When we see Kuchipudi today, or when we engage with Kuchipudi today, we are witnessing the culmination of these years of tradition, adaptation, and also refinement. So it's a continuous evolution where each practitioner has contributed their vision to enhance while also preserving certain elements, the essence of Kuchipudi. So this is an ongoing process, as Devi has said, where there is assimilation and evolution so that there is sustenance also. Yeah, so by integrating all new influences, Kuchipudi continues to thrive. I think I'll stop here.
Thank you, Sindhu. Thank you, Devi. Both of you, that was a very excellent scholarly and informative session that you gave both of us. Just to give all of us, just to summarize and even talk about a few points that struck me as very beautiful, is that you brought about the history from the perspective of Orientalism, from the linguistic bifurcation angle, from the musical angle, and not the general history. And for those who are just getting into the history of Kuchipudi also, we know the story of Siddhendra, we know the story of Machupalli Kaifiyat. If you have read a little bit, you know all that. So, and about Abul Hasan Tanisha. So we thought we should give you something, you should be able to look at it from all angles. So even talking about, one might wonder why Devi spoke so much about Telugu when it's a Kuchipudi, it's a dance form webinar. But the point is that your dance is a product of everything that the land encompasses. All this, I don't think anything becomes or everything becomes a product of everything that is surrounding it. If it's a fabric, the fabric is a product of everything in the society. If it's a dance form, it's a product of everything in the society. Particularly for dance in theater, because we have language, music, costume, food we eat, everything goes into the dance itself. And this has been brought out very beautifully because the need for classical dances, the need to, generally we are all told that the classical dances are the purest and the most spiritual, and we do these classical dances for for spiritual purposes, for higher realms, sure. But then that doesn't have to be the case for everybody. You can also do it because you love the aesthetic of it. You can also do it because you love the costume of it. There's nothing wrong about it. So, but the need for the classical dances was mainly for nation building and identity. It was so the minute we say we talk only about the spiritual aspect, we are narrowing down the purpose of the dances that we do. The very need, the purpose of these dances was, the classical dances came from the necessity to have an identity of each place. So that's how you have Odissi, you have even Bharatanatyam. It's just that it came earlier. And Bharatanatyam and Kathak had quite a few blessings from the center. So they spread quite a bit. And then the other forms of poor Kuchipudi and Odissi, we struggled and we're still struggling to find our place on the cultural map. Let's all come together and root ourselves strongly out there. And particularly Sindhu's point about the mnemonics of Kuchipudi, that's what makes Kuchipudi distinct. Those of you who are dancers, I can't see anybody. Nobody wants to show me. Harshita showed me her face for a while. And then the dancers, when you dance Tungurtanga Dikkitaka versus any modern jati that is made to Mridangam mnemonics, the way the body moves and the way the energy rises within you is completely different. I think you should try it. The speed. Another very important point Sindhu made was about the double, Rendo Kalam, Mudo Kalam. We have it with us. We have it in Kuchipudi. Everybody has it. But the point is that the indigenous forms that have contributed to the making of Kuchipudi, which I think all of us Kuchipudi dancers should acknowledge ethically. Let's have our ethics in place and acknowledge the indigenous forms. They are very cognizant of the mood of the audience. So it was not important for them to be textually correct or organizationally correct. What do I mean by this? It was not important for them to follow the rules set by any organization in another stronger state. Yeah, it was important for them to please the audience and cater to the mood of the audience at that time. So in Jatiswaram, Sindhu, you want to sing that part? Jam tarum takina.
Jam tarita, jam tarum takina tari, jam tarita.
And the second part?
Jam tarum takina tari, jam tarita, jam tarum takina tari, jam tarita.
So if anybody is telling you that talanki radandi adi exact double kaadu, it's not the pai kalam of that. Say, yeah, it's not the pai kalam. So this is Kuchipudi. And Vempati Master, when he did it, he had a purpose. He did it like that because that's what he thought was necessary to keep the mood up of the audience at that point. Remember, Jatiswaram is a long piece without sahityam in it. Now, you want to say it has a different rhythmic pattern in it, so it goes in Tisragati? Maybe, or maybe not. What if it is not? It really doesn't matter. It was the brilliance of the artist being on stage, enjoying the dance and yet being aware of what is happening in the minds of the audience and performing the job of entertaining the audience right. And that is what Kuchipudi is all about. I think I'll stop my rant and leave it open to the audience now. I can go on till the cows go home. But now I'll leave it to the audience. You can also put in your messages in the group, in the chat, Nana, any of you.
Namaste Andi. My name is Kiran Gandham. I learned Kuchipudi very long time ago from a master from Kuchipudi village itself, Bhagavatula Kumar. And after that, when I came to US, I started learning Bharatanatyam as well. I would like to continue. So what are the options?
So, Kiran Garu, if I know how much you have learned, say one thing about the master's certificate or diploma program is, Kiran, I'll call you by your first name. I'm sure you're younger than me. The one thing about us is we don't change anybody's style. And we don't believe in flattening the styles of Kuchipudi. We like the distinct styles of each guru. So depending on how confident you are about with Kuchipudi, I feel by what you're telling me that you have learned from a traditional artist and you have also done Bharatanatyam, you will be good to go for masters, the master's program. But when I talk like this to a few dancers, they say, no, but I haven't danced in quite a while, so I'd like to do the certificate and then come. That we can talk when we talk together, Kiran.
Okay.
My number is in the chat. I can also put it out again. You can give me a call.
Yes, Andy. It's 91944.
944, yeah. Plus
Okay.
91 is
Yeah,
India.
sure.
94411. Okay, 2 days aagi call cheyandi, Kiran. I'll be flying back to India and I'll talk to you from there.
Okay, Andy. Super. Thank you so much, Andy.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Great.
By
Thank
the way,
you.
it's a very informational session, and I'm so
So this
blessed
is
actually to be listening from the start. And Sindhuja Garu
yes.
and Devi Garu,
Devi.
it's amazing, Andy. Yeah, everyone
And
talks about Bharatanatyam because that's been, as you said, it's been
yeah.
famous or whatever. But growing up in Andhra Pradesh, I learned Kuchipudi, and back then nobody knew that much because it's
Yes.
the only one
Yes,
I
absolutely.
learned. So I had to say, is it Bharatanatyam? No, it's a
No,
separate
it's
thing.
Kuchipudi. I know. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, I echo your thoughts, and it's super blessed to be here and to listen
I'm
to
so
all of
glad.
you. And, yeah, thank you so much.
Kiran Miru, please attend the other webinars also. This is our faculty. And I'm a very proud chair of the Kuchipudi faculty.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They're all my kids here. They're all my faculty. So please come for the others too.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, you have one on 9th June, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
9th, yes, sure, and 9th and also 11th. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Annie. Thanks for
Okay.
the
Right.
information.
Thank you, Kiran. Okay. Anybody else wants to? Don't be kind to them.
Hi, this is Ramya.
Hi, Ramya. Yes.
This is pleasure of meeting you all people. I had a kid of 6.5 years old. Can she join the classes too?
No, Ramya. So at 6.5, see, we only have the certificate and diploma.
Okay.
They have to be in the high school for them to start the certificate and diploma programs. So I suggest that she begins to learn. This is the perfect age for her to start learning. Let her go to a guru, and I don't like the word guru, so let her go to a teacher and train properly in her dancing. And from there, once she comes to high school, we are here. We are here to take all of you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the information.
Meeru Randi, if you are a dancer, you come to us now.
I'm not that. I am.
Anyway, but your daughter needs you, Ramya. So get her into dancing now.
If I want to start from what I have to do?
So we don't teach from the beginning, Ramya. The certificate program that we have, it doesn't start at the basics, but then we do take in students who have done the basics. So the basic steps and jatis, if they are done, the certificate program is something that takes you ahead from there. We have Katyayani Kanak, who is already here. She gives you the practical classes. She works on your technique and prepares you for the diploma. So I would say go to a teacher, start learning first, because ours is not a dance school. It is a university giving certificate. It gives you the affidavit.
Basics and వరకు నేర్చుకోవాలండి.
Steps jatis and ఒక item అయినా complete చేసుకోండి. It will take, if you go only once a week, it will take you 2 years. If you go more than that, it will go faster.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any suggestions ఉన్నాయా లేకపోతే బేసిక్ క్లాసెస్ తీసుకోవడానికి?
Oh, we can connect offline, Ramya Tappakunda. Get in touch with me and I will definitely let's see what works for you. Where do you live, Ramya?
Missouri.
Ekkaduntaru?
Missouri state.
Oh, Missouri. I thought you said sorry. Okay. Missouri. Okay. Good. So just connect with me after 2 days, Ramya, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, sure.
Okay, right. Thank you.
నమస్కారం అండి.
No, that's my son. He's 11.
11, okay.
మా
Namaste.
అమ్మగారు చాలా బాగా చేస్తారండి డాన్స్.
లేదు.
అవునా మాస్టర్స్ కి తీసుకొచ్చేద్దాను నీ పేరు
అంటే it's been a while. I started 2 years ago. My husband has been encouraging me అనమాట.
Very good, Kiran. So we have ways of bringing it back to memory, Kiran. We'll definitely talk.
Okay.
And I believe that swimming, walking, and dancing doesn't leave the body. So
Right.
we have to explore and bring it back.
Yes, Andy. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
ధన్యవాదాలండి.
Thank you, Nana.
Hi,
Harsh.
Namaste, ma'am. This is
Hi.
Mahati.
Hi, Mahati.
So, since this is about the cultural journey, just I got one doubt, like how the Telangana side influenced, if anything, for our Kuchipudi, and also I want to know about Andhra where it comes, or I don't know, is it part of Kuchipudi or separate? What it is?
So Bharatanatyam, I will tell you about. The Telangana influence, Sindhu will tell you about.
So, as we know, Kuchipudi is from the Krishna district in Andhra Pradesh, but they had sort of an exchange in terms of culture also. Like there was a strong Islamic influence also on Kuchipudi, where the Nawab, apart from, there are some usual stories like what Akka said in the beginning, where Tanisha has donated lands for them. And apart from that also, there has been a cultural assimilation of sorts where in Yashagana, certain characters used to do or used to get dressed in an Islamic fashion and also speak the dialogues in Urdu. Urdu was always from Telangana, right? So this the bordering, there were, I mean, I can't recall the exact places now, I'll have to refer once, but there were these provinces sort of things where both the cultures coexisted and they have adapted some of the traditions from the Nawab rule.
Yes, the Nizam rule at that time. Yeah, from the Qutub Shahis onwards. So for some time, Mahati, let's put aside the division of states and this politics of Telangana lo Kuchipudi Kadu, Kuchipudi Andhra Valla dance. Let's throw all these arguments out of the window and let the administration take care of that. We as artists, we exist everywhere. And ours definitely, because the Nizam ruled till Kuchipudi also. The rule spread till there. So you cannot say if Qutub Shah has, Abul Hasan Tanisha has given Kuchipudi village, you cannot say that there was no influence of Telangana on them. You have a whole lot of Persian words in Kuchipudi itself. So please, if you are from Telangana, don't stop dancing Kuchipudi. Dance it and talk about it properly. Yeah. And Andhra what is Andhra Ante? Andhra is, I dance another version. I dance a version, the Devdasi style, which Andhra also takes root from. So I'll talk about the Devdasi style. You can apply it to Andhra also. It's the hereditary women singer dancers who were connected with the temple and the court and later the zamindari, which was the dance that was performed rampantly to a certain music ensemble. So these were families which kept dancing generation after generation. I'm hesitating to get into too much detail because I can keep talking for 41 days about it. So I'm just talking on the surface. So Andhra is based on the dance of these hereditary women dancers. Is it a part of Kuchipudi? No, it is not a part of Kuchipudi. It is a separate dance form. And these hereditary women singer dancers from coastal Andhra region also existed in Telangana. It's just that the Nizam rule removed the women's presence earlier than in coastal Andhra. So the evidences that we find are a little difficult to you lay your finger on in the Telangana area, but in Andhra it is still there. I still learn from the women existing there. So that Natraj Ramakrishna Master Garu, he was the one who consolidated the dance of these Kalavantula dancers, and he called the dance form Andhra Natyam. That is what is today performed as Andhra Natyam. So the maker of that form, the source of it is the Devadasis, the Kalavantulu from coastal Andhra region. The one who established it is Natraj Ramakrishna.
Okay, ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you an Andhra Natyam dancer, Mahati?
No, ma'am. Actually, I'm doing MA course already. So,
Ah,
my last course is with Anupama, ma'am. So we studied all literary composers, everyone. Then I tried composing Adhyatma Ramayana Kirtana for just
right.
for an assignment.
Okay.
Then when I researched, I saw all the songs they did very well in Andhra Natyam. I didn't see even one song. Like I saw a few songs, maybe four songs in Kuchipudi. That's why I got doubt. Okay, they explored
So
Adhyatma Ramayana very well. That's why.
they didn't explore it, they performed it, they lived it.
Yeah.
It was part of their repertoire. So don't set me off on that discussion. We can talk about it later at some. Mahati, if you are in our university, you are subjected to my classes anyway. So
Yeah, we'll get more information, of course, ma'am.
yes, yes. Okay. You have any questions for the speakers? Pooja, can I see you? I'm like this.
Oh, I have the similar questions as Ramya.
Yeah.
So I think I got the answer. And without our knowledge, coincidentally, I also came from Missouri. So, so we
Okay.
both have, I have the exact same questions as Ramya. So, yeah, I
We,
think,
we'll find solutions which are abundant in the universe for both of you. Yeah.
yeah,
Get in touch with me, Nana. We'll
yeah.
see what we can do about it.
Okay, sure.
Okay. We still have 3 minutes. Is this Shailaja, our student Shailaja from the university, or anybody else?
And I just want to add one more point. I
Yes.
always wonder, like, in the places where I was, I could see Bharatanatyam, I could
Mm.
hear Andhra but I could rarely see Kuchipudi, like only one or two teachers that are, I mean, like, I think one teacher or two teachers that uh, were able to somehow manage to teach, I mean, like, have like Kuchipudi in the places. I could never understand why that's the case. And many of the Telugu people who were like me want to stick with Kuchipudi. But still, because we are close to Kuchipudi place, we are from there almost. So, could not have like a consistent, like, for a long term teachers for their kids. They were transferring their kids to Bharatanatyam. I could never understand because I don't have a deep, though we were like have connected with Kuchipudi people and all the dances and all, but we don't have more information about that. So now I got all the answers of like why and all kind of thing. It's unfortunate.
Yes, it is. But we'll turn it into our fortune now. We will not let go, saying somebody has done this to us. We will be out there and see that we exist. Our presence is felt by everybody. Yeah.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Kiran, my name is Yashoda Thakur. నేను తెలుగు అమ్మాయిని. I'm married to a North Indian family. So you have that very violent effect. My name is Yashoda Thakur. Okay. And this is Devi Chandra, Devi Girish, and this is Sindhuja. So, in case you want any more names, just telling you.
Thank you, Andy.
Okay. Okay. If you have no more questions, we can call it a day. Do you want to say, thank you very much, Harshita. నాకు గొంతిప్పి చెప్పచ్చు కదా, even if you don't want to say.
It's nothing like that. Just, I mean, I have learned dance, but it was a while ago when I was doing my schooling in India, but totally out of touch. But I like to learn more about dance, and even if it is like literally the kind of history of it. So
Yes.
I just joined the webinar, and thank you for
So,
the information.
Harshita, that is the other thing, right? It's a very good point you brought up. Thank you for bringing it up. Because much as we do think that dance practice and theory are together, they need to go together, we also understand that dance appreciation is very important. So even if you don't practically dance for various reasons, mana dancers, after a certain point, they may not be able to dance for various reasons. So we always say, actually dancing is not the only way you remain connected with dance. It's about studying music, it's about studying the dance, writing dance, watching dance, talking about dance, understanding the nuance of dance. All these are also very important. So that's another thing that we at the university promote. We do get, Harshita, there are others like you who come and say, I cannot dance. I have danced at one time. Now I cannot dance, but I want to know more about dance. I want to be connected with it. So even if come under that category, we are here for you.
Okay, so would you suggest me joining in any of the courses like certificate or diploma?
Yes, the certificate I would suggest. Kani, let me talk to you once.
Okay.
Let me talk to you on a one-on-one basis. For all you know, you may be good for diploma also. Why should we downgrade you?
Okay. Okay.
Right? You can start at another level. Let's explore the possibility first. And like our dear Panimadhav Garu is telling us, please tell everybody else about the university. This is our little effort to spread Kuchipudi, put Kuchipudi on the, not just the cultural map, the very map of the world and not just India. So because we look at Kuchipudi as a product of nation building, of politics, of gender, caste, race, politics, we look at it as at the center of everything, and we look at it from multiple angles. So I just feel all of you should be a part of this crusade that the university has taken up.
Thank you.
Spread the word for us. Right. Thank you very much, Andy. Is that it?
Thank you. Actually, these free webinars are very helpful, ma'am. Even I'm sending these to many people who are interested in dance.
Thank you.
These are free and these are very valuable. Thank you, Sindhuja Garu, Devi, everyone. It's great.
You'll find them in class, Mahati. Just in case you want to trouble them more, you have access to them in class. Okay. Right.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. Free webinar.
Thank you, Andy. Namaste.
Pleasure having all of you. Namaskaram.